This is Kathryn Getsky, host of the Hope Matrix podcast. We are here to share science, stories, and strategies for how to hope. I'm the Chief Hope Officer of the Shine Hope Company, and Shine is the mnemonic for how we teach hope. So when we talk about hope, we talk about how we use stress skills, happiness habits, inspired actions, nourishing networks, and eliminating challenges, which are our thinking patterns that get in the way of our ability to hope. Hope is a skill. You can measure hope, you can teach hope, and you can start practicing skills to activate higher hope in your life today. And on this Hope Matrix podcast, we aim to bring in guests, experts in science, people with stories, and those that have strategies for activating hope in your life.
Welcome, everyone, to the Hope Matrix. Super grateful to have you all here today and excited to speak with our guest, Shamash Alidina, and super excited to be delving even deeper into hope in 2021. As I've shared, I think it's one of the most important and critical skills we can learn and use and practice, and it really impacts all areas of life. So I'm grateful that you're listening in and helping us spread the how-to of hope. So I want to first just give a quick overview again on the 5 keys to hope that we've talked about before, and then I'll introduce our guest. So we've identified 5 keys to hope, and these are kind of 5 core concepts that make up what it takes to have a hopeful mindset. It includes recognizing and reducing the stress response as the first key. The second key is practicing habits for happiness. The third is taking inspired actions using SMART goals. The fourth is creating a very strong hope network. And then the fifth is overcoming challenges to hope. Things like rumination, worry, internalizing failure, trying to control things out of our control. So those are really the 5 areas we focus on for hope. Again, hopelessness is a feeling of despair and a sense of helplessness. So it's both emotional and motivational. So to get to hope, we need to engage the 2 key ingredients of hope, which are positive feelings and inspired actions. So I think you will see that we have an amazing guest who knows so much really about all of these areas. So I'm really excited to have him. Shamash, great to see you.
Really great to see you. Thank you so much. And I'm really excited to speak with you today. Thank you so much. You've introduced the whole topic so fantastically already. I find it fascinating, this whole concept of hope.
Yeah, thank you. And you are the king of, meditation and mindfulness, which is one of our identifying the stress response and reducing it. So that's key number 1. And then also happiness, so which is our second key to hope. So, and you're really great at creating networks. So I admire you in so many ways. So it's really great to have you here.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So instead of me delving into you, I've done a few of your events and you've written so many books and you teach all over the world. And why don't you share with listeners kind of what your background is and what you're up to?
So my background is actually I studied engineering originally, but I happened to go to a meditation class halfway through my degree in chemical engineering. So I ended up getting fascinated by that. And so I just wanted to teach that to the world. And I thought, let's start with children. So I became a school teacher in a school where one of the schools in London where all the kids did meditation. So I taught there for almost a decade, actually. And that was when all my hair fell out. And then after that fell off, I thought, okay, what should I do next? And I started thinking, actually, is there any research on this meditation? And I started to look, and yes, there was a whole bunch of research on mindfulness. So I studied mindfulness, and through loads of good fortune happening, I ended up writing a book on mindfulness, the Mindfulness for Dummies. And when that came out, I quit my job as a school teacher. And I just went full-time teaching mindfulness. There was just 2 or 3 mindfulness teachers in London at the time. So it was a kind of a good time to start. And I had no idea that, it would become such a popular thing, but I'm glad that it did. And I've been teaching ever since, and very passionate about training mindfulness teachers for many years, for 7 years. And so we have this whole community of mindfulness teachers. So I help support them spread mindfulness in their way. So there's some of the things I get up to.
Yeah, that's amazing. So mindfulness for dummies.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is it still
Exactly.
available? I actually need to get a copy
Yeah.
of that. I don't
Yeah,
think I've
yeah,
read
yeah. I
that.
will send
Yeah.
you one. I'll send you one. Yeah. It's on its third edition. So
Okay,
still people are
awesome.
interested.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important because, the first key again being identifying the stress response and learning tools to reduce it. And of course, mindfulness is key to that. And a
Mm.
lot of people that I talk to are scared about getting into meditation, think it's a huge time commitment. They can't stop their mind from running. So, why don't you give us a little mindfulness for dummies right now?
Well, I was a dummy at just as much as anyone else reading it, because when I just tried to write the first sentence or two of just defining mindfulness, I found it really hard. I bought loads of books on it, and each one had a different definition. But having read them all, there were a few key elements. So the first thing about mindfulness is that it's always about cultivating present moment awareness, and I think a lot of people appreciate that. Yes, it's about being in the here and now, the present moment, but it's also about bringing certain attitudes. And the key attitudes that kept coming up is, first of all, kindness. Second one, curiosity, which I think is a wonderful one, which people don't talk about enough. Third one, acceptance of what's happening all at the moment. Yes, things can certainly change, but we need to start with acceptance for that change to happen. And then the fourth one that I've started to read about more and more and kind of discover through spiritual practices is a sense of stepping back. It's kind of, sometimes in science they call it metacognition, stepping back from your thoughts and your feelings and observing it as if from like a third party perspective. And that perspective taking self is really key to mindfulness. And again, people don't talk about that so much. So that's what mindfulness is about. But the cool thing is that, we're all mindful to a certain extent all the time. I mean, some people are naturally slightly more mindful than others. On average, we're mindful or present about 50% of the time. There's a famous Harvard study where phones randomly asked you, what are you doing? How happy are you? And are you mindful or not? And they found a direct correlation between mindfulness and happiness, actually, which could be an interesting link with hope. They called the study "A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind." They actually called the study that because they found that as it wandered more, it tended to wander more into the rumination that you mentioned about. So that's what mindfulness is about, being present. And it doesn't, I know a lot of people think that you need to do 10 minutes or 20 minutes, always trying to do different studies to work out what's the perfect length of time. But anything from a moment onwards is great. So even if you're going to do it for 1 second a day or one breath a day, that's a step in the right direction. And who knows what that will lead to. That could be life-saving. Just the fact that you're taking a moment or a few seconds to be present may help you to step back from a difficult thought, a difficult feeling. It may help you to kind of change your mind about what you're going to do in the next moment. So we don't need to say that we're going to do a whole bunch of time or a whole load of minutes of practice. You can just start with one breath. And that's something that happened to me actually. I mean, I've written all these books and talk about all this mindful stuff, but I kept for years getting in and out of the habit of meditation. I'd be doing it for a few months and then I'd get out of the habit and I'd feel guilty because I'm writing books for dummies about mindfulness, but I don't really feel like doing it myself. And I realized it doesn't matter how many books you write about it, unless you actually do it, it doesn't make a difference. You can write 100,000 words on it, literally. But if you don't take the time to actually do the practice, then you don't really get the benefits. And then finally, relatively recently, I worked out the solution, which was reduce it down to just one breath. I've always got the motivation to do at least one mindful breath. And so when I wake up in the morning, I say minimum one mindful breath. More is a bonus, well done if you can do more. And whenever I just take that one full deep breath in and out, I'm like, oh my God, that felt so good. I'm going to do a few more and a few more. And before I know it, I end up practicing more. So yeah, and in a way, that's one of my kind of tips I wanted to share, which is just to keep it right down to the bare minimum and make a commitment to be able to do that and then build from there.
Yeah, I love that. In a minute, I'm going to have you take us through a mindful breath just for practice. But I wanted to comment on that Harvard study. What I found fascinating about it is even if we were thinking about something and, when they questioned people, even if they were imagining a positive event, an event they considered positive in their life, they were still unhappier than they would have been if they'd been in the present moment.
That's interesting. I think I might have heard of that. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So even if we're like, thinking about our wedding or a wedding day or, something really amazing that happened, we're still not as happy as we would be in the present. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah, I
really,
remember them saying that. Yeah, even if people were present when they were doing something which is like quite miserable, like being squashed on a train or something, the more present they were, surprisingly, they were happier. Because sometimes they're not very happy experiences, you'd think, but they were happier than if their mind was wandering. Yeah.
yeah. And I love how you say take a step back in a way and kind of observe it. I think, one of the biggest challenges we're facing right now is we're so triggered where there's such a heightened kind of stress, collective stress happening. And our security feels very threatened in a number of different ways. And so we're responding much more quickly to stress and to those triggers. And there's Jill Bolt she's from Harvard and wrote a book about that 90-second physiological kind of flooding that happens in the body when we're triggered by an external event. And if we can, instead of acting in that place, which often leads to things like addictive or compulsive behaviors, if we can learn to step back and take that breath and also kind of observe it from a different place, I mean, it can have such a profound effect on so many things in life. So I really, it's a very powerful way to look at it. I like it.
I was watching a program, a BBC program yesterday on how to boost your immune system. And they were doing different things on different experiments on people over 6 weeks. And they talked about stress. And they actually argued that there's there's acute and then there's chronic. And they were actually arguing that acute stress actually boosted your immune system, was actually healthy for you, but it was the chronic stress that was bad for you. And they did an experiment. They took the lady who was the presenter and they purposely stressed her. I can't remember exactly what they did, but they put her in some situation to stress her. And they took blood sample before and after the stressful situation. And afterwards, she actually had a stronger immune system response after the stressor. And they were talking about how there were some studies, like if you had a cold shower every day, for example, that triggers your stress response. So doing a 30-second cold shower at the end is actually really good and healthy for you. You're giving yourself a little boost. But it becomes dangerous when it's chronic and you just feel overwhelmed by it. So we also need to think, because if we just think of stress as a bad thing, that actually has a negative effect as well. We need to see things in balance, and some stress is actually healthy for us. And to like what you're doing right now, you're doing this amazing movement about hope and launching the Hope Matrix and all these things. It's stressful, but it's very meaningful as well. And so it's a very healthy form of stress. And that's much better than not being stressed at all, actually. So I would argue.
Yeah, and no, I absolutely agree with that. And I just think that and we know that if you act out when you're in an active stress response, and we call you're in the lower part of the brain, which is when you're angry, frustrated. And if you take action when you're in that part of the brain, it's often an unhealthy action. So it's not that the stress itself is bad, it's how you react to the stress. And so when we're triggered and we feel sad or angry or those kinds of things, stress can be a really motivating, great, inspiring thing. It's how we manage that stress, and it's our reaction when we're in that stress response. We can't be in what we call with our kids, the upstairs brain, which is where we're creative, problem solving, where we find wonder and awe, where happiness lies, and the downstairs brain at the same time. So if we're in our stress response and we're in fear and anger, or we have some kind of trigger, then we can't be in both places at the same time. So the idea is to just not act out against other people. So like, don't send that horrible email, when someone triggers a reaction, or if your parents are yelling at you, learn to take those mindful momentary breaths so that you really help to regulate that response. So anyway, that's kind
I
of
love that model, by the way. I think that's the first time I've heard that. Maybe you mentioned it on the New Year's event, the downstairs and the upstairs, and that we can only be in one place at a time. That's so nice and clear way of explaining it.
Yeah, it's very simplified science, and yet it really works with kids. They get that, they understand. And so that first key to hope is identifying and managing the stress response. Again, like you said, stress isn't a bad thing, and it helps us build immunity, and there are all kinds of benefits. It's just how we react to that stress. For me as a child, I reacted with addictive behaviors, compulsive behaviors, and I didn't learn how to really manage and control that stress response, which led to more unfortunate events. And that's true. That's why it often results in violence against self or violence against others, and things like cutting and all of these things we see, and why, learning about our stress response. And even, the HRV, I'm not sure if you're familiar much with heart rate variability, but it's, so important. Breathing helps us regulate heart rate variability. And so just doing that in the moment to really, learn, be curious about the stress and the triggers and what they're telling us, but yet not to act out in ways that are hurtful or harmful.
Exactly. That's explained so beautifully. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then happiness
Maybe I should
habits.
be interviewing you.
Yeah.
Maybe I should. Because I'm loving
No,
this.
no, it's so great to, I mean, you are, experts all over the world, but this is your,
Yeah.
okay. So
No,
then
this
to
is-
stay in the upstairs brain are the
Yeah.
happiness habits. And I
Mhm.
mean, I think of you as Mr. Happiness.
Oh,
I
thank
don't,
you.
yeah, I mean,
I think of you as Mrs. Hope. Like those Mr. Men books. Do you have them in America? There's little books where they have like Mr. Happy, Mr. Sad, Mr.
No.
Lonely. Oh, you don't have that?
Wow, no, I don't think so. Wow, we'll have to put them
I'll have to
in
show
the,
you that. Yeah.
yeah, we'll put a link to them in the comments so people can find them too, I'm sure
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
on Amazon or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you stay in your upstairs brain? I mean, you actually mentioned a few that are so key.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the mindful breath, like I said, is a nice, small, simple one. The thing is that a nice analogy is the thing about that practice, for example, waking up and taking one breath or a few breaths every day, is you're not doing it, you're not in a major stress response, most likely. You might be, but the idea is that you're cultivating a positive habit, like you say, a happiness habit. And a nice analogy I've heard is that you don't start weaving your parachute when you're falling out of a plane. You need to prepare for it all the time. So it's like you're building this sense of resilience. And so when the difficulties and challenges come, you're kind of ready for it. And that's a nice one. Another one, I don't know if you've heard of this one. It's by one of my favorite researchers, BJ Fogg, and it's called the Maui habit. Have you heard of this one?
I have not.
This is a nice one. He's given a whole TED talk on this. And so this researcher, BJ Fogg, is a world expert on behavior and behavior change. And he wrote the book Tiny Habits. A lot of people have heard of that concept.
Love that, yeah.
And so he's had this free course, a 5-day kind of email course. And people put down all sorts of different habits they wanted to do. And he was able to track which ones kind of led to more and more positive behaviors. And, gratitude was quite a good one and quite a popular one. But it wasn't the number one. It wasn't the one which he noticed actually led to so many positive things. And when he looked it up, which one it was this very simple one. And it was when you wake up in the morning and you put your feet on the floor, you'd literally just have to say to yourself, today is going to be a good day. And it's such a simple one. It's almost even easier than having to practice gratitude. And when people did that, they had this feeling of success that they actually managed to do something positive. And I practice it sometimes as well, especially on times when sometimes I just, I was struggling to get into the mindfulness, not feeling the gratitude so much. So I just put my feet on the floor. I just say, today is going to be a good day. And on those days when you think, actually, I'm not even sure if it's going to be a good day, you can say, today's going to be a good day somehow. Literally, that's what he says. And it just creates this sense of hope, I guess, and positivity about the day to come. And the sense that, okay, maybe I didn't manage to do my mindfulness or my gratitude, and I don't feel good, but I managed to do this little thing which gave me this sense of success. So it's great that it's been found for so many people to be beneficial. So the Maui habit is a good one. He calls it a Maui habit because I think he was in Maui in Hawaii when he discovered that. And he wanted to associate, he had so many positive experiences there. So there's another one. Another one that I find really helpful is, and I have to make it a tiny habit because I'm someone, if it requires too much effort, I'm just not going to do it. So I need to keep it really, really small and then build it up from there. And it's to do with physical exercise, and it's just going for a walk, but going for a walk every single day. And if I say to myself, I have to go for a long walk every day, it's not going to work. But if I say to myself, I have to put my walking shoes on every day, and then if I feel like going out, I can. And if I don't feel like it, I don't. And so far, as whenever I put them on, I definitely want to go out. Sometimes I might go for a long walk. Sometimes it may be relatively short because it's winter at the moment. It's cold. Sometimes it's, raining and stuff. But I have managed to go on it pretty much every day. And so that really makes a difference. You don't feel it so much in that moment, but it's something that's cultivating a sense of positivity. And so I enjoy that too. And of course, socializing and keeping in contact with friends is one of the most powerful. There's seen so many studies in positive psychology, positive relationships, being part of a community, if you can, creates so much resilience. And on some days, that can be difficult. And so maybe I just send a little text message to someone or a little WhatsApp message and just start a little conversation that way. So there's a few that kind of come to mind right now. There's a new one that I've started actually, and that is always for my whole life actually. I've always been really disorganized and really untidy, and it's because I guess I always put that at the very bottom of my to-do list. There's always so many more important things to do. I'm trying to save the world here. I don't have time to tidy my desk. But I've been studying this kind of philosophy. It's called, I read a book called 2 Second Lean recently. And he says that the first thing you do before you do anything else to start your day is to do this 3S, he calls it: sweep, sort, and standardize. But basically, clean your desk, clean your area, clean the floor, clean everything every day before you start anything. And this is a completely new concept to me, but I've been doing it every day for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And again, get this really nice feeling of success that I've moved forward. And it just becomes much more pleasant environment in which for me to do other things. And I've even started labeling, like, this is where my pens go, and this is where my meditation gong, which is there, goes, and this is where my water goes, and my vitamins and my laptop. And I'll make little videos for myself and maybe share it with this like little WhatsApp community that are into this as well. And that's been really fun too.
I love that.
Not your typical happiness habit, but
right. No, but so important. Yeah, absolutely. And also kind of ties into the SMART goals. And that's the third key to hope. So we take action. So hope isn't just about like, I hope to win the lottery, but you'd have to actually do things to get towards winning the lottery. And how likely is that? But, if you want to get outside more, but it feels daunting to set I'm going to run 5 miles every day, doing something like chunking that down to, I'm going to put my shoes on every day. And it's so inspired. It's so important. That hopelessness comes from often we set these grand goals and then we get overwhelmed, and so we just freeze.
And I think the challenge is not the small goals, because I think people get it, but people don't understand the power of it, I think. And it's even hard for myself to realize, just putting my shoes on every day, how is that going to help? Or one mindful breath. I never did that because I thought that's never going to be helpful, because like I was really into science, and I'm like, I can't see any studies where one breath is apparently going to change your life. It's always like these monks, and if not monks, then half an hour, and if not half an hour, a decent chunk of time. So it feels like, okay, that's just not a good idea at all. And so persuading myself that you can do something really, really small. Before, when I was trying to kind of be a bit tidier with my desk, when it used to be really messy, would be just to tidy one thing. And I just did that for a while, and that helped to trigger and start it too. And it was almost like a joke. I'm like, I'm just gonna put that over there, and that's it. That's my tidying up for the day.
Awesome.
You can tell I need to make it really small, and things like that, and I think that helps it, and it makes it almost fun, like a game. Like, how small can you make the change, the positive change? Right.
And what does it lead to? There's a cool video that shows a guy that makes his bed versus doesn't make his bed, and and then it plays the day out. And you can see in his body language and like what happens when he doesn't make his bed and what happens when he does.
I need to watch that.
I know. I'll share it with you.
Is it a cartoon or real?
No, it's an actual person. And I'll share it with you. Yeah, it's very powerful because it really helps visually depict that.
Yeah.
And so, okay, well, take us through that breath now.
Sure. you want to just do one breath, or should we do like a minute or two of meditation?
Whatever you want. Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's do a minute or two, which is a nice exercise. Most kind of beginners like this. It's a simple visualization, actually. So just begin by just having your eyes open. Actually, just noticing 5 different kind of objects and things in the room around you, and just notice their color. So just noticing maybe something that you haven't noticed earlier. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So we're just cultivating some curiosity, and then if it's okay with you, just closing your eyes. And then we can just begin with a nice full deep conscious breath in, holding it for a few moments, and a slow smooth breath out. Now we're just going to do a short visualization. So I invite you to try imagining that you're carrying 2 bags, 2 heavy bags, one in your left hand, one in your right hand. And the bag in your left hand has got the word past on it. And it's got all your challenges and positive experiences from the past. And the other bag says future on it. And it's got all your hopes and dreams and wishes for the future. And just for the next minute, we're going to experiment with just putting both of those bags down just to have an experience of the present moment. So begin, if you're willing to do so, to just lower the bag of the past. It's there, and just lowering that bag down, down, down to the ground. And just like when you're normally carrying a heavy bag, it feels nice to put it down. So having that sense of relief as you release the bag of the past down. Notice what that feels like. And then the other hand, you've got the bag of the future. As I say, we've talked about hope today and dreams and wishes, but also worries and concerns about the future. We also have that. And so there's a certain weight to it. So maybe just for now, just putting that bag down, and you can pick it back up again in a moment. And so you find yourself just resting through a practice of letting go of the past and the future to an experience of the present moment. And you can notice the feeling in your body, maybe the weight of your body on the chair or the bed, or whatever you're sitting or lying on, your feet on the floor, and the sound of my voice and the other sounds wherever you are. So you notice those sounds, and you can continue to feel your breathing, and maybe even just gently smiling with gratitude that you're alive, you're here, you're listening to this program today. And just taking a few moments, just a few seconds to enjoy a present moment experience, being in the here and now, connecting with your senses. And so now you can practice for as long as you want, but now we're just going to gently open our eyes and come back into our surroundings. And yeah, we're back. I was really getting into that, actually. Could have carried on.
No, me too.
You're like, damn, I was getting into that.
I know, yeah. Wow. So neat. Yeah.
So that's a nice visual exercise, because a lot of people say, oh, you need to let go, but how do you let go? So that's a nice visual exercise, imagining the bag of the past and the future. You can even have a couple of bags where you write it down. You can just practice putting them down, and that physicality of it can actually really help. So it's a nice fun experiment to try, that letting go. And it's interesting, when you let go of those 2, you don't need to do anything. You're already automatically in the present. So I like it for that reason.
Yeah, very cool. And I could actually feel the weight of the bags too, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Super powerful. Can you share just a little bit about a Hope network? So you mentioned previously creating strong networks and reaching out to people, and that is so important. And, you know, with the lockdown and all of that happening, it's been really challenging for a lot of people. So what do you have? Do you have any suggestions or recommendations for people to reach out, or how to cultivate?
Yeah, so for me, I find that when I'm in a space where I'm not feeling that great or that hopeful, that positive, it's really hard to, almost impossible for me to kind of connect with others. I know for some people it's easier. For me, I really just don't want to do it. Maybe I want to go into my cave or something, but it's that sense of kind of wanting to step back. And I've learned to kind of accept that side of myself, but it's almost like a barometer. It's almost like something that's telling me, okay, something's not quite right. You don't feel like calling up your friends or messaging them or connecting with them. So it shows that either you're very stressed or you're very tired. There's something going on. So just gives me a few signal that maybe I need to change something in my routine. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I found it, especially we've had multiple lockdowns here in the UK. And the first one, after a while, after maybe a few weeks, I was really finding it hard because I'm a very social person. I'm a mixture of two. I also like my me time, but relatively social person. And for safety reasons, I wasn't meeting up with people, even though sometimes it was allowed. And that was getting really, really hard. And I was missing the daily connection. So what worked for me, I'm passionate about mindfulness, and didn't find a particular mindfulness group that I wanted to join. So I thought, okay, let me just start my own. And we just started a group that we meet every morning. And I just did it as a 30-day challenge. I didn't know it would continue. It was in, I think, June or July. And a small group joined and we practiced meditation. And it was a commitment from me. So I had to say that at a certain time every day we were going to meet and we're going to do our meditation. And then we had a chat afterwards, just on the Zoom chat. And it was that chat that actually built up a whole community. And we just kept going month after month. So it's almost 200 days in a row now, amazingly, where we meet every single morning, including like Christmas Day and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, all those days. And it's been, it's such a nice, warm community. We're really good friends now, although I don't think any of us have ever met in person, and it's people from all over the world. So it's my passion, and I found a community to join about that. So for others listening, they've all got their own different interests. Well, it will certainly be mindfulness, or even might not be hope. It will be some other thing that you're passionate about. And we're really lucky right now with the internet is that it is quite easy to be part of a community. So Facebook groups sometimes have wonderful communities there. You could set up a little WhatsApp group community or some other digital community because it's harder to meet in person right now. And to make a commitment to connect on a regular basis, whether it's once a week or once every few days, or even once a day for a short period of time, that commitment may feel like a burden at the beginning, but becomes like a wonderful, positive experience. So I'd really kind of, it really makes, it creates a lot of hope, I would say, when something like that happens. And when someone's going through a challenge in the group, everybody else is so supportive, and that can actually raise the feeling of hope too, because you're not watching all the negativity that you see in the bad news and on the news networks, because you're seeing real people and you're seeing people caring for each other and concerned for each other. And so there's a feeling of hope for humanity that arises because you actually see how real people respond when there's a challenge. And I think that's really, really important too. So certainly hope created there.
Yeah, I love that. And it's such important advice that if there's not the kind of community you're looking for, to create it, because the reality is there are probably other people searching for that similar kind of community. I know we too on our iFred website have a depression and anxiety support group that there's probably 15,000 members that people are online, engaging for, regularly. So there's always going to be support. And I like too that you say, that sometimes you just need some, just step back and some me time and to be alone. And that's great. I think it's also helpful too, if we let people know if we need that, and make sure that they check up on us so that it doesn't lead to isolation. But each individual kind of knows their own kind of path with that. We know that having at least one person to talk to in times of crisis or stress or just even life is so important, and also that it's a positive network, that it's a network that helps you feel better and not go further into activities that are harmful for you, or so yeah, that's great suggestions. I love the WhatsApp. I know a lot of people have done that. I haven't done the WhatsApp groups, but a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a new thing actually. I started just a couple of weeks ago with this group. We have a Facebook group and we meet on Zoom, And then I was part of another community, and they had a WhatsApp group, and it seemed really engaged. So I thought, oh, let me try that. I don't have my notifications on for it. But when you start a group, you can actually, there's a special link that it creates. And so you can send that link to the group, and they just need to click the link and they automatically become part of the group. So you don't have to send everyone your phone number as such. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. As long as you don't share it like publicly, because I think they say, there's a security thing there. But if it's people that you trust, you can share that link. And I think you can have up to 100 people, maybe more, in a WhatsApp group. So that's cool. And now there's so many other things. There's a new one that's just joined today, because some people are concerned about security and stuff on WhatsApp, because it's become part of Facebook and they're starting to share more information. So someone just introduced me to one called Signal. Apparently, Elon Musk is recommending it, and apparently it's got more better privacy. And then there's another one called Telegram. So there's a few apps out there, and depending on what your concerns are about privacy, you can choose the one that's right for you.
Okay, awesome. And can people still join your group? Is it open?
Yeah. Welcome to join. Yeah, Daily Mindfulness Club.
Cool.
They can just email me or whatever, and they can join.
Okay, what's your email? Do you want to give it out, or should I put it in the comments?
If they use my website, shamashalidina.com.
Okay.
Or Google me, and just hit on contact and just say that you're interested.
Awesome.
We'll get you in there.
How lucky would our listeners be to be in your group?
That would be great. I'd love that.
Mindfulness. Yes. Incredible. Wonderful. Well, I so appreciate you joining us today. Are there any other thoughts you want to share with our listeners? I know you also just had an incredible event, and you have so many. It seems like you're always speaking and just know all of the kind of movers and shakers in this mindfulness movement. And
it's my passion. I really enjoy organizing online events. I used to be more involved in the Museum of Happiness before, and used to organize events for them. And now I do more kind of leaning towards the concept of mindfulness. But I love creating a space for amazing teachers like yourself to just share with some different networks, and who knows. And I know that your name came up many times when we had our evaluation about what people really appreciated, because they'd never heard of the importance of hope, that there was research on it, the concept of hopeful cities that you're sharing about, and people were asking about how to get involved. And the others teachers too, some of them had never spoken before, some had. But I think maybe there are lots of events like that happening nowadays, but I don't know too many of them. But it's something that I really enjoy organizing. So yeah, I'm thinking about the next concept. Maybe have you done one on hope? Maybe we could do one on hope.
No, I would love to. Yeah.
happy to do that. Yeah, that would be fascinating. Yeah.
Super fun. Yeah, I love that.
So you know all the movers and the shakers in hope.
No, I do. Yes.
There you go.
That's right. I love that you had Avi on from Australia, the conscious DJ. He's awesome.
Yeah. We had a mindful rave to finish the night.
I know.
The funny thing was, right, I was online from like 7 a.m. in UK time all the way up to midnight.
Oh my
gosh. And then people from the US were starting to turn up during the mindful rave at like 3 p.m. and they're like, oh, it feels like midnight here. Where's the after party? I'm like, there's no after party on the Zoom. I never heard of a Zoom after party. I'm like, that's a great concept though. Where's the Zoom after party?
It is. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I love it. Oh.
So yeah, we'll have to organize an after party for people who just don't want to go to sleep and want to keep Zooming. Now, the interesting thing from that event, someone said that they were very introvert naturally, and they don't like drinking, and every New Year's Eve is such a pressure for them. But they said this was really nice. For the first time, they felt they could have some fun and then get involved and chat with the community. And this is their favorite New Year's Eve event, which is amazing to have one on Zoom. So that really gave me a lot of hope as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. And what a great way to start the new year, really, to go in with
a little meditation.
Yeah, so cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been really fun.
Chatting.
It's been really fun.
Really great. So, and we'll talk offline about the Hope Day. Yeah. I like it. We should do it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, watch the space, people.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So thank you everyone for joining today on the Hope Matrix with Shamash Alidina. And super grateful that you joined us. Hope you learned something new and that you go out and create positive change in this world or in yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathryn.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
So thank you all for listening in to the Hope Matrix podcast. We want to shine a light that hope is teachable, hope is measurable and teachable, and provide you with actionable insights for how you can start activating hope in your life today, and provide a framework so you can start talking about hope with other people and practice these skills together, because we are better with hope. Please feel free to check out theshinehopecompany.com, where we list all of our resources around how to hope. We have a lot of free programs for how to hope, including the 5-day challenge, our hope infographic with a lot of skills that showcase how to hope, and articles of how to incorporate hope into your life. We have the Hope Beat Weekly, which is a weekly newsletter that shares strategies for hope. We have a My Hope Story template, so you can write your own hope story today. Also, My Hope Hero, so we can share what our heroes are doing to activate hope in their lives. And this is especially good with youth, so they can start looking up to people that have overcome similar challenges to them and seeing how these heroes use the Shine Hope framework. We have a Hopeful Minds for Teens program, a Hopeful Minds overview, educator guides. We have a new evidence-based college course, so you can activate hope on the college campus. There are programs in the workplace, overview courses, 90-minute courses for learning the what, why, and how to hope. What I want you to know about hope is it's a skill. You've got to practice these skills to become hopeful. It's easy to fall into despair and helplessness when we deal with challenges in life, and it takes intentional work and practice to get to hope. And yet it is always possible. So no matter what life brings, keep shining hope. Thanks so much for listening in. Have an awesome day. And of course, I've got to add that this program is designed to assist you in learning about hope. It should not be used for medical advice, counseling, or other health-related services. I, Fred, the Shine Hope Company, and myself, Kathryn Getsky, do not endorse or provide any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am not a medical doctor. The information provided here should not be used for the diagnosis or treatment of any medical condition, and cannot be substituted for the advice of physicians, licensed professionals, or therapists who are familiar with your specific situation. Consult a licensed medical profession or call 911 if you are in need of immediate assistance. And be sure to know the crisis hotline, 988, if you are in need of support. Thanks a bunch for listening. Take good care of yourself and keep shining hope.